It is a bit of a rainy day here in the wood yard, but I am staying nice and dry under the Versatube carport shelter. Not that I'm going to be getting a lot of work done today because I have a bunch of other stuff to do, but I do need to get the Eastonmade 37D ready once again to go on a little road trip. So I thought I would answer a few questions that I've gotten about just certain specs on the length of the machine when it's set up like this. I also had a question about wanting to see the wedge a little closer up. And then I'm going to show you how this breaks down, folds up, and gets ready to head down the road. I had covered in a previous video how I set this all up, but I never really showed how you take it down. So that is what I'm going to show you today, and we'll go over breaking down the Eastonmade 37D with the attached conveyor, and like I said, getting it ready to head out on the road. All right, so the first thing I want to do is just check how high I had this conveyor set. Around 9 feet, 8 feet, 11 inches. We'll call it 9 because my favorite number is 9, and that's about what it's at, 9 feet. There's my handy dandy way of holding down the end of the tape measure. So with the height of the conveyor set to 9 feet, the total length of the Eastonmade 37D with the attached conveyor is around 26 feet. 26 feet from the hitch to where the end of the conveyor is up in the air. Now, if your conveyor is set a little bit higher with the adjustable legs there, if you set your conveyor a little bit higher, that's going to make your length, your overall length, a little shorter. So this does go up to around 12 feet high. So that would move that back a little bit. If you were to lower it to, I think the lowest setting is around 7 feet. If you were to lower it, it would make it a little bit longer. Now to get this ready to travel down the road, I believe this is recommended. I'm not sure if this is required or not, but I always take the pullback arm of the box wedge off, and I put that in the back of my truck. This piece does slide off. So there is the push plate, or the pullback plate, and now this slides right out. So there is the pullback arm comes out. You can take that off, and again, I put this in the back of my truck. So there is the box wedge without the pullback arm on. Again, this is the 7-way box wedge. I do not have, currently at the moment, I do not have this wedge sharpened at all. So it's not been sharpened. This is how it came. But there is a closer look at the wedge. There are the wings on each side. There's two. There's a center wedge, and then there's 2 wings on each side of it. And those, again, these are not sharpened either. I have not sharpened anything on these wedges. All right, so now for the rest of the steps, we actually need to start it up because we need to lift up the log lift, and we need to raise the wedge, and then lift the conveyor, pull the legs up. We'll show you all that. So we do need to start it up. So with the log lift, I usually raise it up to right about there, and then this actually lifts up and folds over. I keep the cylinder up a little bit so that's not down and is going to hit anything on the road. And I usually keep it in line with kind of like the inside of the tire. I don't want to put this all the way down because if something was on the road that could end up bouncing and hitting it. So I leave that up so there's plenty of clearance underneath that lift of the log lift here. And then the log lift does have this little spot right here to latch and strap it down. The other thing that I want to do is I want to lift up the wedge so that that's not going to hit anything on the road or be riding so low. The other thing that does is that engages this lift arm and kind of locks that wedge in. So the wedge is not going to bounce around. So you raise the wedge up, and now we need to raise the conveyor a little bit and bring those legs in. So with the conveyor lifted up, I can now bring the legs up and use this locking pin to lock them in place. With the legs folded up, I can now lower the conveyor down until it's resting on the ground, and then I just undo these two latches. So with these latches unhooked, now I can raise the conveyor up and it's going to fold up, and the top with the wheels will travel in to a certain point, and then we'll just lift it up. You'll see what I mean. So this is about, I think, anyway, my guess, my experience of having this, towing this down the road a few times, this is about the angle that works best. If the conveyor is back a little bit further, it can get a little light with the tongue weight. So I've found that right about at this angle, this is about the best for towing. Now I will put a strap around the bottom here and kind of pull this in to hold it all together so it's not hanging like that. So you put a strap around the conveyor and a strap on the log lift. The other thing someone was wondering was the height of this conveyor, and it's a little over 10 feet tall. So yes, now I am actually glad I went with the 12-foot high Versatube, because I'm able to drive in and out of the shelter with that conveyor folded up. So yeah, I think it's like 10, well again, depending on the angle you have that at, I think it's around 10, a little over 10 feet, 10.4 or 10.6 maybe. So there are the steps to fold up the Eastonmade 37D with the attached conveyor and get it ready to travel on down the road. There is the process to make the 37D ready once again to hit the road. And where am I hitting the road to this time? Well, you are just going to have to wait and find out. I might give you a hint tomorrow night on the live stream at 8 p.m. Central. So stop on by, Friday Night Live, kick back, start the weekend, hang out with us Woodhounds, and maybe you'll find out, or maybe you won't. I can't make any promises. All I can do is guarantee if you are there, you will have a good time.